Okay.
I think we should kick off, Brendan, and
Yeah, I
and
think
then
so.
we can circulate the recording after.
Sure, sounds good. All right. Well, thanks very much for allocating an hour of your time for everyone attending. This is really exciting for us. This has been a big project that Brett and I have been working on. So we'll get into it. And if you've got any questions, there is a Q&A panel around. So feel free to write any questions in there. And towards the end of the presentation, we'll answer all those questions. And we'll open up a bit of a Q&A towards then. So what are we talking about today? Okay, so what's ahead? I'm going to obviously introduce myself and who Kapcher are. We're going to be touching base on the existing workflows within inspecting facades and where we think we can improve that. We're going to sort of talk about our hardware and some of the challenges we had around developing this system, and then we're going to go over how it works. We're going to have Brett go into a demo around everything within the platform and the workflow that we envision this solution to involve. And then obviously we're going to be going into a Q&A. So throughout the presentation, make sure you're either writing down or just punch it into that Q&A area, and then we'll get on top of it towards the end. Okay, so for those who don't know me, my name is Brendan. We've also got Brett here as well. I'm the director of Kapcher. We've been around for about 5 years now. We originally started off as a drone operating company. We soon learned that that area was a little bit limited in what we could and couldn't do. And we sort of pivoted as a business and looked at how we could utilize technology in a way to complement and enhance people's workflows. And that's kind of been a philosophy of ours over the past 5 years, is how can we take technology to make everyday workflows a little bit better, whether it's safer, more information, everything along those lines. And that's where it led us over the last 5 years into a world of, I guess, facade inspection and facade management, where we're engaged to talk and provide a solution to be able to inspect a facade within a CBD landscape. So just for people who aren't involved with this space, a facade within a CBD location, from our understanding, I think anything over 14 stories or higher is required to have its facade inspected every 5 years, 100% of the facade inspected over 5 years. So the way some people do it now is that they do 20% of the facade over a 5-year period, meaning that 20% of the facade at year 1 is inspected, and then that area of the facade will only be looked at 6 years later. So once we understood that, we sort of looked at some of the challenges around inspecting facades that people go through now, and we found that it was quite risky. It is very expensive to do. Most facades are quite challenging to access. It's not a very overly fast process either. And we thought that there would have to be some way to be able to innovate in this space, to be able to provide a much safer space for people to be able to complete the work, inspection, document the facade network. And that's where we went for the last 2 years. We went on this journey of really investigating into this space, understanding it quite deeply. And today we're hopefully going to be showcasing you a solution that we think is going to be really revolutionary on how it will enhance and complement current workflows and provide more information to be able to have more comprehensive information around that facade network. Now, some of the challenges we saw with current reporting was most of the time with any sort of report or asset inspection at the moment, it's very static. It's very PDF. It doesn't really interact with the asset. It's very much sits on a hard drive or on someone's folder, printed out, whatever it might be. And it's really merely just a snapshot of what the current issues are on that facade. We're not documenting the whole facade. We're really only just documenting the current issues or problems that have been identified through a facade engineer or some form of engineer and inspection. So we're not able to really, in our eyes, you're not able to map degradation over time of the whole facade. So as an example, if we're only inspecting 20% of the facade over a 5-year period, to be able to really know and understand what the facade's doing, what the condition of the facade is in, over a 5-year span, it's quite hard to sort of just compare the pair. We're not being able to pick up current problems. We're not being able to identify them early to try and potentially rectify those issues. And we can't really create a proactive maintenance schedule to be able to maintain that facade network. And so these are all the problems and challenges we saw within this space that we knew that there could be a way to innovate and change and enhance the way they do things for the better. And I guess that's what we're presenting to you guys today. So I guess we're calling it the future of facade inspection. We really think that this is going to change the way we document and inspect facades. It's not going to replace current workflows. We're really we're adamant that a human element is always going to be part of this process. We really believe that technology should be utilized in a way that it enhances or complements the current workflow. So with the concept we're putting forward today and our solution that we've got ready to go, is that we're saying that we can document 100% of the facade through imagery, high resolution imagery and other sensors that we'll go into a little bit later. And that gives us a better understanding to create dilapidation reports and better information to really understand what condition that facade is in. Once we have all that information and documentation on a regular basis, yearly, 6 monthly, whatever it might be, we have the ability to then calculate and create predictive maintenance plans for that facade. So whether you're near coastal waters or a city landscape or in really hot weather conditions, all sorts of materials are going to deteriorate at different times. And without having that regular ongoing information of the facade, we don't have the capabilities to actually create a predictive maintenance or dilapidation of that facade network. And for us, it's going to reduce, I guess, the risk of completing the inspection overall in a way that we're going to be hopefully spending less time on the side of the facade inspecting and more time actually either rectifying the problems or just reviewing the data from either an engineering standpoint or an asset manager, asset owner perspective. And this is all able to be done potentially all from your computer, anywhere with a link, your iPad, whatever it might be, measure, annotate, and collaborate remotely instead of having to be on site, which we think is a really powerful tool. So I just want to talk about some of the challenges we had over the last 2 years in developing this. And I think, as you know, I'm fairly certain we've got some drone operators attending today. So as you guys would know and understand, that operating a drone within the CBD landscape is quite challenging just on the basis of GPS. Loss of GPS, the frequencies bouncing around all over the buildings, and it's really hard to have a really accurate lock, even when you are using some form of RTK and high-end GPS. And for us, this was the challenge. We didn't want to create a solution that was going to be an addition to or an additional service to someone. We wanted this to be modular. We wanted this to be able to be adaptable and interchangeable with your current workflows, whether you're an engineer or a facility manager. And we wanted it to be seamless to be able to integrate. And for us, that was from user interface to data upload to getting accurate information. So the challenge across everything for us is actually bringing our modeling data and our inspection data together. So to give you guys a background, we're collecting the modeling information of these facades, of these buildings from crewed aircraft, so helicopter and fixed wing aircraft. We're documenting cities, we're mapping modeling cities, allowing us to pull that data, clip that data, and provide you a visualization of your asset or building. From there, the biggest challenge for us was actually taking that helicopter data, we'll call it, and tying the really close-up inspection information together. And a part of the hardware and the software and the processing is that all three components for us are really important, and we've had to sort of reinvent the wheel around how we capture the data, process that, and then be able to visualize that in a way for people to easily interact and get value out of it. So to give you an understanding of what we're proposing and where we see this workflow working with anybody from an engineering, facility management, or whoever else it might be, we're first digitizing your asset, your building, whatever it might be. We're then taking the camera system and the hardware that we've developed, and you guys are mounting it onto the BMU, building management unit. Now, it's not just the BMU. We're very close, probably a couple of months away to having another solution that doesn't require a BMU. So there's a couple of elements of it being a standalone system that's scaling the facade, and then also another system that we're going to be able to utilize with people on ropes, whether it's window washers or whoever, who would be able to take that with them throughout their day, and it's documenting the facade as they're scaling. So we understand that not all buildings have BMUs, and we're working towards being able to provide the solution across all types of high-rise buildings in CBD locations. So once the data is acquired, we're then taking that data is uploaded into a web app portal. Once the data is there, we're processing that in a really specific way to be able to tie our helicopter data and our close-up imagery from inspection. We're processing that in a special way. Once that's all together, we're putting it into the web app for you guys to either log in, review it, and complete an inspection remotely if you wish. Or there's an element of machine learning that we've been building out over the last couple of years to identify facade-specific defects, which we'll touch on a little bit in a couple of slides once we go into a bit more of a demo. All right. So the concept there is what we wanted to do is ensure that as the building manager, engineering company, whoever is performing the inspection task as such, or documentation task, we wanted this to be as easy as possible for you guys. So we have two options. We can do this as a bespoke service where Kapcher comes out and mounts it and everything like that. That is a more expensive solution than the solution we're going to be talking about now. The solution that we're more pushing down the path of is subscription-based. You're going to be subscribing to Kapcher on a yearly basis, and what that will get you is the software component and a hardware component. From there, that will allow you guys to sort of determine where that BMU unit needs to go, and I'll touch on that in a second. Now, we see that the subscription-based side of so I guess deliverable to you guys or go to market maybe was the best option for us. We contemplated complete purchase of the hardware and the software subscription, but we thought that was going to limit people and our customers to the ability to scale with us products and the things that we have coming up in the pipeline. And that's from a software perspective and also a hardware perspective. So right now we've just got standard imagery, RGB cameras, scaling with the BMU, but coming down the line, we've got infrared integration, we've got thermal integration. We're going to be building out a live dashboard. So wherever you have, if you have multiple camera systems with us, you'll be able to log in and see a live view of where they are in the building, watch it all through a current dashboard with 3D modeling and everything like that. You know, we're bringing LiDAR to the game, you know, change detection on the software side, you know, and it will give you options to upgrade whenever you like. Instead of, we didn't want people to go and purchase something and then, as always, technology will evolve and we bring something new out and it will force your hand to upgrade your solution. We want you to be part of our ecosystem, allow you guys to chop and change types of sensors for your needs. So whether it's you need one thermal camera as you're collecting RGB imagery, or you want to do a complete thermal capture, we can chop and change those sensors at any given time through the subscription model. Whereas we would see you guys being forced down the track of purchasing more hardware from us when we're saying, hey, thermal's available, now you can buy these thermal cameras. We'll just give you that option to upgrade and we can send out those changes of sensors. The other element is that if there is a damaged unit or it failed for whatever reason, we will have a backup kit for all our clients that we can send within 24 hours. So without you being left in the dark, we're able to say, you give us a call and say, Brendan, our hardware's not working for whatever reason, we need to get it repaired. We will send a new kit the next day. We'll take yours back, we'll repair it, and we'll swap it out again once it's all finished. And that's where we see that our ecosystem evolving with you guys to what you guys need. So I touched on this just a little bit earlier, but we wanted this to work in with your current workflow. Over the last 2 years, we found out that, you know, logistically figuring out when window washers are going to be out on site based on weather, when the BMUs are going to be working, all that sort of stuff was really, really a big challenge for us to be able to come out on site. So through the subscription model, this will give you guys the ability to essentially have your hardware wherever you want. So we envision that, you know, if you're someone that works nationally, you've got a camera system that's in Victoria, one in Sydney, and one up in Brizzy, or you might have two in Melbourne, one in Sydney. But that will give you the flexibility to be able to send that hardware where the need is. So maybe in Melbourne, and typical Melbourne fashion, we'll have an average winter, reducing the amount of time we're able to get out on the BMU or utilize that camera system. Whereas we're in Sydney or Queensland or potentially over in Perth as well, you'll have the ability to take that hardware, ship it to other areas of Australia to meet the needs of where your camera system's going to go. And I'll touch base a little bit later on where we think the real value is from I guess a commercial standpoint. But really, at the end of the day, if you know Victoria is not going to be doing something for the next 2 weeks because the weather prediction is absolutely horrendous, you can ensure that the investment within this hardware is being utilised in other areas of Australia where it's not affected by weather, and you're completing more inspections, documenting at a longer period of time. So I touched on this a little bit earlier. We're really big on ensuring that technology is there to complement and enhance and not replace. You know, over the last 5 years, we really see technology helping people in their current roles and their workflows, whether it's the bridge inspection or whatever it might be, but we're never going to be replacing the human elements in this scenario. And as a really good example is that with facade inspection, you do need to get some form of test sampling on certain types of facade. So of course, you're going to have a human element involved with that, whether it's drilling into the facade or whatever it might be. But where we see this type of technology coming into play is really giving you a overall comprehensive data set of every asset or every type of facade you're inspecting. And that's from being able to have data to predict dilapidation over time, or to simply allow us to utilize machine learning to identify the problems across the network for you guys to review remotely, and then decide where you need to spend the most time on the facade to either further inspect and investigate the problems or defects, or actually just plan and rectify the problems that are there on the day. And that's where we really see the value of this information and this type of solution coming in. Again, we're not replacing, we're never going to replace. We're only going to be enhancing or complementing the current workflows. And that's really where we see the value in this type of solution. So, Brett, you're going to touch on this a little bit more. Maybe I can sort of let you take over from this point here. I'll get Brett to jump into a bit more of a demo and show you guys a bit more of a realistic understanding of what the end solution is going to look like, and we'll go from there.
Excellent, thanks, Brendan. So as Brendan mentioned, we're really excited to be here today. It's been a 2-year journey to get here. So my name is Brett Chilton. I'm from a company called Scand. We are the technology partner behind Kapcher. And one of the things I want to get out, just sort of set the scene with you all, is that when you're subscribing to this unit, you're actually subscribing to a version of Scand that you can't buy in the normal market. Kapcher has invested heavily in specific technology that relates to Scand in order to bring the helicopter imagery and up-close imagery together. So that's and you'll see in the web app that it says powered by Scand, and that's it. But it's a Kapcher product. It's only available through Kapcher. So our journey as a technology business has been started in the building envelope, and specifically roofs, in 2018. And as Brendan mentioned, 2 years ago, he approached us and said, "Hey, we've got this idea for facades." And so we started training out an algorithm, a black box for facade inspection. So I just brought up a slide here on currently the different defect categories that we're working on in relation to facades. So we have delamination, dent and cracking, hairline cracking, scaling and spalling, surface moisture, seal defects, which is quite a new one, broken and cracked glass, tinting damage, coating defects, mold and algae, and corrosion. Now, on our roofing application, there's many other in that list, but I just wanted to touch on that first. I'm going to share my screen now, Brendan. Portion of screen. Can you see my screen there? Awesome. So as Brendan mentioned, we're getting around the problem, and let's cut straight to the chase. If you're using UAVs and you're abiding by CASA's laws or regulations, you can't fly over people or streets, within a 30-meter lateral to stop the risk. If something went wrong, the drone would become a hazard to people. So we get around that issue by moving to fixed-wing aircraft or helicopters. Now, one of the questions in the chat before is that sounds very expensive, and funnily enough, it's not, because a helicopter and a plane can capture a lot of data very quickly. But the idea here is that, and Brendan's already mapped the major cities in Australia through Kapcher. Once a year, could be every 6 months, depending on building levels, like new buildings going up. They'll go around, update the model and of the city, and then we section out the parts of the model that required to whatever building is in the web app. And so you'll notice if we look in here underneath the sills, that you're going to have this loss of data, because effectively this is the angle. If we just move out, that would have been the angle that the heli was at when it took those photos. Right. So to come down lower and get flat on, you would need UAV. So now that we have the model and we're understanding that we're not actually going to be inspecting on the model, because the imagery that creates the model is too far away. So what are we doing? We're using the concept of up-close cameras, and Brendan touched on it at the moment. That can be a series of cameras that are strategically placed and talk to each other. And they're also talking to another black box, which locates the information on the structure. And then we're placing them in space. And what that means is that it allows us at any stage to use the image viewer tool within Scan to be able to click on the model and then pull down the source photo coming from the up-close data capture. Now, anyone that's here on the call that understands photogrammetry understands that one of the golden rules of photogrammetry is to zoom with your feet. You cannot use imagery from far away with imagery from up close. And this has been a challenge, and quite a lot of money and a lot of research and development has gone into being able to actually place the imagery that's coming from the helicopter and then apply that to the model. And then on top of that, match that model back to the up close imagery so that you can see into the facade. A lot of money and a lot of R&D projects failing. We've managed to be able to solve that, and now we can come in, click on the building, and be able to locate that imagery in space on the helicopter model. In addition to that, we've actually updated the GSD accuracy through that process. So being able to come in and annotate on the model is possible as well. And that's just through our normal polygon generation tool as well. So being able to measure and annotate on the model is still a capability that's available. And you'll notice that all of the information here is in easting, northing elevation, so it's survey grade. I will note that the absolute location of the building is not survey grade because we're not picking up ground control when we're placing the model in space, but it is relative. So that is that. Now, I touched on just before that we have a number of algorithms that we're training out for the purposes of defect detection. And you'll see that the way that we deal with those is, and as Brendan mentioned, it's a black box that we feed in using computer vision. Again, this is a series of a person drawing a box or a bounding box around something, and you do this over and over and over again until you have a trained out data set. It's not perfect. We have lots of false positives, and there is 2 quality control steps that take place in the process of delivering a defect. But once it gets through those 2 gates, we then project the data, and because we have the positioning relative to the model, we're able to place those defects in space onto the building. So now you have a visual step of being able to place that defect in space. So we're able to grab that information and put it onto the building relative to where it is. In addition to that, we have a context photo which shows us exactly where, it's a terrible photo, exactly where that defect is on the building. So gone are the days of having a schematic in 2D with X marks the spot of where defect number 1063 is located on the building. You're very able to very quickly understand that that is where the defect is on the building. And by zooming around, you can see that that is where those defects have been found. The defect information can be supplemented using, when you do eventually send out the engineer to look at rectification or to do some form of destructive testing, via the app, they're able to add photos from their phone and associate that with the defect as well. In addition to that, we have the ability to share this information externally via our share link, and we're able to position the camera in a way that's meaningful for us. So I'm just going to do that again. If I wanted to share here, and we'll just do that again, turn the camera on, copy that, and then paste that. It should fly us to that exact part of the building that I just captured with my camera. So this is an excellent way to share information externally. So you're not saying on level 3, 4 runs across or drop numbers or any of this sort of information. We're now using spatial data to actually understand the building in its in full. This gives us a complete view. And one of the things and strategies around having the subscription offer of the hardware coupled with the software is we expect every building will go from being captured every five years to doing it every year. There's just no reason why you wouldn't do it every year. And so what that means is if you have a defect that you didn't capture in year 1, you captured in year 5 using the traditional method, right? That's 5 years of that defect getting worse. Now we're saying, no, scrap that. Let's start again. Let's capture this every year, monitor the defects side by side, because if you recall back here in our layers, we have the different epochs of data that you can go out and capture: 2021, 2022, 2023. Now we're side by siding those, and you can see if something is progressively getting worse. Now you can understand how you're going to predict, do your predictive maintenance into the future based on good data from the past. And one of the things that we're trying to replace here, and we're trying to do it for facade, like the same way that we've done for roofing, is to be able to say, let's go away from a static PDF report that someone has in a folder or in a top drawer of their desk. Let's bring it all into one central place where there is a source of truth, and then layer that information on top of each other. So an engineer can go back into last year's capture, look at something, and then have a look at the current data and understand the building better. That's it. That's it in the simplest form. And through doing that, the derived value, and Brendan's going to touch on the commercials, and we're expecting to blow this market apart just based on the way that we've structured the pricing now. If you look at the lost opportunity of fixing defects straight away, as opposed to letting them get 5 years down the track because you've got your drops wrong, that alone is an ROI example. Not to mention the fact that the actual time that reduced man hours of dropping people on roads is significantly less when you know exactly on the building where you need to go. So we're not replacing the engineer. Absolutely, you will need to send an engineer to go and have a look at things. You will need to send a specialist to go and pull that facade apart on a rope. There's no doubt that will need to take place. But wouldn't it be great to only have to deal with the parts of the building that are specifically in need of that love, as opposed to crawling 20% of the building each year? So I might wind up here. I'm conscious of time. We also have a reporting that flows out of here, and a spreadsheet that can talk to SAP and your other maintenance scheduling platforms that you use. This is all well integrated and well understood. So yeah, happy to answer questions as we go along, but I'll hand back over to Brendan there.
Awesome. Thanks, Brett. That was great. So let me just get my screen back up. Okay. All right, what's going on here? Okay, so we've gone through the demo. Awesome. Okay, so this is kind of our commercials. So this is an exclusive offer to the people that have come to the webinar. There will be a slightly different price for people that aren't part of this webinar that they will be offered with this service. But this is what it's all offered. So we will send everybody this presentation, and as well as the pricing for the webinar pricing. It does cover a lot. But essentially with this price per month, it's a 12-month commitment. You get the software, you get up to 50 users or 50 seat logins. You get 5 terabytes of data. You get the software onboarding and training as part of that. The hardware standpoint, you're getting one piece of hardware kit, and that will be determined how many cameras and things like that once we understand your needs. We'll also come out and do an onboard training. We've created knowledge portals and things like that for you guys to reference back to at an ongoing basis to be able to access. And this price, I guess this package will also allow you to have hardware upgrades and software upgrades throughout that first 12 months. The other inclusions we are that are a part of this package for us is that every asset that you guys own or are inspecting, the 3D model aspect that we've collected from a helicopter is included. So there's no additional cost to create the 3D, no additional cost through processing or capturing the data to create that 3D model of the building. So that's all part of the package. Any replacement kits, all that service-based side of things from our standpoint is all part of the package. Next day delivery and everything like that. There is a discount on the per unit package. So like I touched on earlier, we envision that an asset management company or an engineering firm will have multiple of these cameras sort of distributed around Australia. So there is a discounted price on those units as well, additional units. Then there's obviously all the software features there on the side. So there is a lot that is involved or included, in this package. And we really wanted it to make it a really viable solution for people, really getting a bang for your buck, I guess, from our perspective. So with all that said, Brett and I sat down to sort of give you an understanding on, I guess, an example of commercial breakdown of what maybe a typical scenario we're seeing from existing clientele that we've got on board now, and how they're running it. So say you're an engineering or an asset management company, and you've got 34 buildings in your portfolio that you need to maintain and inspect. We envision that someone like that would maybe have 3 camera systems potentially around Australia. From our calculations, we should be able to have 1 building per week inspected based on, depending on how you're going to approach the data acquisition perspective. So when we break all that down, we've averaged out that, and being semi-conservative, we think that 34 buildings a year inspected, and each building will cost about $1,600 to document. Analysis with the AI and everything like that, and engineering reports are additional, but just to have the documentation, the 3D model and everything like that, and the software, it's only going to cost you about $1,600 per building, utilizing that. And where we see that value and kind of transposing that information is that instead of just doing 20% of the facade, we're doing 100% of the facade over a 12-month period, or twice a year even. And the way we envision this working is, I saw one of the questions in the Q&A just before, was that did you have to send an engineer on the BMU to capture the data? The way we look at this is it can be whatever solution you want, but our concept and where we see the value happening is that the BMU is going to be utilized at some point multiple times throughout the year, whether it's through window washing or whatever it might be. And we see that if you do have window washers going twice a year to clean the windows on a building, utilizing the BMU, we're simply just attaching the cameras to the BMU while the window washers are completing their task. So we see this as killing 2 birds with 1 stone. It's not an additional service. It's just the ability to go and mount those cameras onto the BMU and the other parts of the hardware onto the BMU, ensuring that the window guys can just press start and stop when they're stopped for lunch or whatever it might be. And at the end of the day, that data is uploaded. And we see that, we're reducing the time spent actually completing the process of inspection and time on the facade. Then we've got that information to be able to calculate and create a predictive maintenance schedule around that facade, mapping dilapidation and aiding with defect liability period, which is one that we really didn't anticipate being super valuable. But from past processes, we've seen that people and asset owners and even engineers seeing that the defect liability period, once you've completed a new build, is really important to ensure that nothing has become faulty within that period of time. And again, you're going to have window washers out cleaning the windows in that period. It's as simple as mounting those cameras on there and documenting the facade within that period of time. And if anything has changed or has been damaged in that time that wasn't necessarily your fault or whatever it might be, it's picked up through the algorithms or your inspection, and is rectified and can be put back on the builder or whoever it might be. So I hope that sort of gives people a bit better understanding on where we see this coming in and how it's all going to sort of the workflow is going to evolve in this space. And I hope you've enjoyed the presentation. I just might check, Brett, did you want to say anything more before we sort of go answer all the questions out loud that have come through through the Q&A?
Yeah, just around the subscription, where we understand that locking yourself in for a 12-month period may be difficult based on the fact that we're midway through the financial year. So we are offering a professional service via Kapcher to do the data acquisition with a couple of kits that we have allocated as a professional service in that space. Now, obviously, you will pay a higher rate than acquiring the kits yourself, but that's meant for those that want to actually verify and see the inspection process in the field prior to committing to a subscription, 12-month subscription model. Our subscriptions start in July, so you'd be amortized from now through till then. So that's another scenario to get a couple of buildings under your belt that we're making available as well. That's it.
Yeah, perfect. So just a couple of questions in regards to, I guess, looking upwards and camera position. So the way the hardware is designed is quite modular. So we understand that all type of, I guess, every facade is going to be a little bit different, whether it's all glass, whether it's got, alcoves, whatever it might be. There's all different types of elements to come with a facade. So you'll have the ability to mount cameras and position cameras in different ways. So if you are going to be doing it as a standalone, up and down, operating the BMU, whatever it might be, then it is as simple as just mounting the cameras in a certain position to be able to cover all areas and angles, and then just pressing start. The system will capture the data on a regular basis as the BMU is being operated. So when it comes to angling and seeing different parts of that facade, it's all about how the camera system is mounted onto the BMU. Do defects come through the shared link? So yes, they do. So Brett, I'm not sure what happened with that one, but it didn't show the defect, I think, when you sent the link or used the link. But
yeah,
essentially,
so
you can answer it.
Yeah, you can say, I only want to share glass defects with my glazier. I only want to share, coating issues with, my masonry guy. Like, you determine what level of defects are shared. If you want to share no defects, so you just want to share the image viewer, that's fine. You turn the defects off, create a share and share that externally. If you want to show the whole thing because you've got an internal presentation with the owner and you want to communicate with the owner exactly what's going on in their building, then you would select all the defects and you would make that link available to them. So there's a level of flexibility there in what you do share, because we understand that there'll be times that you want to be careful in what is exposed by those links, because they are public links. And so you have the flexibility there.
Perfect. And then the last question we've got here is there an extra cost to the auto detection of defects? And Brett, you've answered that. Yes, there is. That is if you do require the defect detection aspect of it. So you don't have to go down that path. You can just document the facade and remotely inspect the facade if you wish, or utilize the machine learning aspect as well to identify those, which is the additional cost. And if you are interested in understanding that cost breakdown and how that would look, we can discuss that a little bit later off the webinar side of things.
Yeah, and just to add to that one, Brendan, you might have a building that you're specifically looking for crack seals or specific type of defect. Then the cost of that is broken down based on what we're looking at. So if we're doing the full gamut of the libraries that we're running it through, there's one cost, and then if we're looking specifically at one or two different defect categories, it's really up to you. There's no issue if you just want to use the image viewer because you have known areas on the building that you want to look at, that's fine. But if you're not the kind of person that wants to look at, I don't know how many photos we captured on that building, but it is substantial given that we have the full coverage. So there is quite a lot of time saved through going through that process of mapping. And the good thing of doing that also is that it will pick that up if you've done remedial works. You're finding it in one drop, and then the next year, the next time you do it, you should see that remedial works gone. So that's that.
Perfect. Okay. I haven't seen any more questions come through. I'll just make sure. But if there is any other questions.
There is another question. Is there a trial package, say 3 months? So we're not offering a 3 month. Yeah. We're not offering a 3 month subscription. It's 12-month only. However, in that scenario, you can engage Kapcher as a professional service, and they will do that based on time and materials. So that's another option as well. So that allows you to sort of get a full understanding of what is available, and then move to a subscription that way.
Yeah. Just a note as well for everyone here. We are only at the moment able to develop and produce about 4 to 6 hardware units per quarter. So it is quite limited. We do have some in reserve at the moment. We do have some already sent out and being utilized. So we do have a limited amount, but if it is something you guys are interested in trialing or jumping on board, and we do need more, we do have the capacity to do that, but we want to ensure that the onboarding process and the way you guys are going to be utilizing this technology is successful, and we're not just sending things out endlessly without you guys being trained and onboarded properly. So keep that in mind, but we do still have a couple available at the moment. So we're open to doing some trials, as Brett said, through that process, and we can go from there. All right,
excellent,
amazing. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for attending. It's been enjoyable. We've had some fun, and I hope you have learned something. Hope you've learned something today and what we're putting forward, and excited as we are to actually bring this type of solution to the industry. If you do have any questions outside of the webinar, please feel free to send me an email. We'll send up a follow-up email to everyone as well in regards to all the information and data around what we've gone through today, and we'll kick off the conversations from there. So thanks very much, and we'll speak to you all soon.
See you guys.